There we go. Awesome. Well, good morning, everyone. I am Brittany Kozik. I am the chair of the YPN this year, and I welcome you to April's Latte and Learn. This session is focusing on navigating bidding wars, and we have our guest speaker here, Sasha Tripp. Sasha is a residential realtor in Charlottesville, Virginia, and a principal broker and owner of Story House Real Estate. Sasha speaks and teaches internationally as a CRS annual celebration speaker and a webinar instructor. She coaches agents at the state and local association conferences nationwide. Her experience and knowledge that she gathers from the best real estate agents in the industry provide her company with invaluable marketing expertise, fresh ideas, and puts them at the leading edge of technology and marketing strategies. She has been selected by Realtor Magazine as one of the top 30 realtors under 30, was recognized on the list of top 101 real estate influencers in the nation, and has been Charlottesville Area Association Realtor of the Year, Sales Associate of the Year, and Rookie of the Year. So welcome, Sasha.
Yay, thank you.
Yes.
Cut that bio down. That was a good reminder. Probably time to revise that. Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody is doing great. Thank you all for having me. I am going to push like 97 buttons and try to get the right screen shared with you guys. So give me 1 second.
So before we begin, Sasha, we would like to thank some of our sponsors for today's event. So we would love to thank our title sponsors for how much they've done for us this year already: Charlottesville Moving Solutions, Blue Ridge Home Builders, Fulton Mortgage Company, and Greenwood Homes. If any of them would like to say a couple words before we move on to the event sponsor. Going once, going twice. Perfect. So we do have an event sponsor for today, and that is Farm Credit of Virginia's with Megan Roger.
Hi, yes, good morning. I'm Megan with Farm Credit. Thank you all so much for letting us sponsor this event. We offer financing for land, farms, unique properties. So if you have one that you're thinking can't find financing for, definitely give us a shout.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we would also like to mention today's charity, the Yellow Door Foundation. We're pleased to welcome Joanne. If you would like to provide a few words as well.
Just a few words, yes. And hi, Sasha. Yellow Door, for those of you who don't know, provides free long-term lodging for cancer transplant families while they're being treated at UVA. And we've been doing it for almost 7 years now. We just welcomed our 101st family, and we just got commitment for a nice apartment. So we're moving along, and we're just so grateful for everything you guys have done throughout the whole journey.
Awesome.
Thanks, Joanne. And then we also, we can donate through our GoFundMe link, and it is available in the Zoom chat. So you can go ahead and scan the QR code that's on the screen. So please, if you want to do that now, that would be great. Any amount that we can, raise and donate to Yellow Door is wonderful. We love to obviously support such a great charity. And regardless of how much you donate, you'll be entered in a lottery to win a great prize at the end. So stay tuned to the end to find out who the winner is. And new 2 years ago, YPN will divide its the end of the year registration income and donate it to all the local charities that we're supporting this year. So if you guys could do that, that would be wonderful, and we're so appreciative. And Sasha, I will now hand the session over to you.
Awesome. Okay. Let me try one more time to pop my little slides up. It's always like a mini step process that you just don't know how well it's going to work. Okay. Let me share this screen. You can see the presenter mode, and then let me pop open to actually present full screen. Can you guys see that without all the like extra slides and random things going on? Okay, awesome. Okay, we're off to a good start. Okay, well, good morning, guys. Thank you again for coming. I was so excited to see so many people register, just because, everybody does bidding wars differently from the buyer perspective and the seller perspective. And so I'm really here to kind of give some ideas, show some things that work for us, give some solutions. I'm not here to tell you like, here's the one way to do it. I'm here to sort of suggest different ways that we've seen it done. But I think my overall push in this webinar is to help people get to a place where they do know how they're going to do it, and they have a plan of attack that is clearly understood by their buyer or by their seller, and not to be jumping around between various different strategies with the same client, because I think that's where it gets a little confusing for the client. It gets confusing for the cooperating broker. It gets confusing for all the various people that are submitting offers or may still have showings lined up on a house. So like I said, if you guys probably, if you've worked with me at all, you sort of know how we handle it. That is not like the prescriptive right way to do it, but my call for everybody is just to figure out how they're going to do it and make sure that their clients are adequately prepared for that. So the first thing I'm gonna ask down in the chat, if you guys would be like willing to participate at all, is just, I would love to get an idea. First question I'm going to quickly ask, and if everybody that's paying attention yet will pop in their quick response, whether they are more interested in the buyer side of handling bidding wars, the seller side, or if they are really equally interested in both, like have some questions about both. That would be awesome. Both for Joey, buyer side for some. It's like some of us may have one side like going really well, and the other side, it's like we're trying to figure out what strategies are out there. Both buyer. Okay, well, and this is good. It's a good mix. It seems a little more slanted towards the buyer side, which of course the buyer side is harder because it's, you know, when you are representing the buyer, you are not totally in control, or you're not at all in control of how the bidding war is going to go. But I'm just going to share some strategies of sort of how to like minimize frustration in that process. Yeah, buyer side is more challenging. I agree. Seller side's a lot easier because it's like you get to set the pace, you talk to your client about it, you know what you're going to do. The buyer side is where like you just get stuck with whatever that other agent is doing and hope that it goes smoothly. So I will cover both. The next, are there any specific questions, like pressing direct questions that people are trying to get an answer to? If you'll share that in the chat. I'm going to start moving through the slides. But if you guys will share, if there's something that you really, really want to get out of this class, let me know. And if it's not in my slides, it'll give me a little extra minute to try to like think of how to address that or make sure I fit it in before the end. But I am going to start diving in. And hopefully you guys can see that. Oh, there's like fancy animations. That's neat. Housekeeping wise, there's not a lot to share except that we will share the slides after this. So you don't have to like screenshot stuff. You don't have to take crazy notes. You can hopefully just like listen and engage and take notes on stuff that like you want to remember later. But if it's on the slide, you will get it after the presentation. So hopefully that allows you just to kind of focus and enjoy the content and be present and, you know, interactive with the content. So and again, I will disclaim like over and over and over again, this is not me telling you how to run your business. This is not me telling you the right way to do it. This is just me suggesting some strategies that I've seen work, that I've sort of found in various offers here that I've seen, but also in other markets. So the first thing I really think about when it comes to like how to guide your clients is you really have to kind of like understand the market as a whole. You have to be able to speak intelligently to the market and what is going on. And right now, we know the market is pretty hot, like inventory is low. There is a much larger supply of buyers than there are sellers. And we know there's a lot of pressing stuff, like questions that are coming out of this NAR settlement or proposed settlement, right? And so I think you have to make sure in all of your communications that you're taking into account that there's like this extra layer of chaos that's going on in the real estate industry right now. And for me, my plea with all of my like colleagues everywhere, competitors, colleagues, everybody that I work with, my plea is that we put each other in a position that buyers, for example, don't feel like they would be better off or doing just as well if we were not involved. One example of many that I can think of for that is like in a perfect world, and I'm not going to say that we're perfect, and I'm not going to say that we haven't missed the mark on this at some point in time, but in a perfect world, if you have 10 offers on a property, and you have 10 various buyers and agents that are out there representing the buyers. In a perfect world, those buyers would not find out that they were the losing offer by way of seeing it go pending in the MLS. Now, I'm not going to say that we're absolutely perfect, but I will say that as a company, when we recognize this issue coming, we recognize the multiple bidding wars and the emotion and how many, the sad thing about every bidding war is, like, say you get 10 offers, well, there's 9 losers, right? And no one likes to be a loser. Everybody got emotionally involved in that. The agents can get emotionally invested in it. The buyers get invested. You all know some buyers are like super, super invested depending on the house and how much of a fit it was for them. Some are kind of like, oh, take it or leave it. We're comfortable losing at the end of the day, or we're comfortable, sleeping at night knowing that we gave it our best. But, when we're in this moment, when we're struggling we're constantly working on making sure our value is very, very obvious to people. It really sucks for all of us as a profession when our client comes to us to be their advisor, to be their guide, and we put an offer in for them, and then our buyer is first notified by the MLS that they lost. Like, for me, like, if I can make a plea to our association as a whole, is like, let's fix that, because we are hurting our entire perceived value as a real estate industry. If the buyer thinks, well, wow, I could have just gone to the MLS and gotten all the information I needed, and the updates that were coming from the MLS were more prompt than the updates that were coming from our agent. So that's 2 pleas baked into one. Number one is, if you're getting communication from the listing agent that has said you're losing, or you are going to lose, or you have lost, you do have to have a promptness in passing that on to your buyer so that they don't hear it like by word of mouth or through another vehicle. But I think the more consistent problem is the listing agent not communicating it and getting really busy and moving it over to pending in the MLS, and they're trying to respond to everybody. And it's the listing agent that hasn't adequately conveyed that, or they are using the MLS platform to convey that. So for me, if we could all go back to our brokerages, and I'm not telling you how to do your business, but I am asking on behalf of real estate agents providing value as a whole, can we all go back to our brokerages and talk to everyone in our brokerages about let's make sure that we are allowing the other agent, the buyer representative agent, to be, as often as possible, the one that conveys that information. So at least they feel, the buyers that are getting their hearts broken feel like they're getting the most timely and relevant information from that agent possible, because I do think we are chipping away a little bit at our perceived value. So that's my plea. Obviously, we have a lot of obligations as agents. The obligations don't change when the pace of the market picks up. I do hear a lot of people, both on the listing side and the buyer side, oh, we had 10 offers, so we couldn't really communicate back with everybody. We just communicated with 1 or 2 of them. We kind of glanced through them, picked the 2 that seemed like they were likely going to be the strongest. We communicated with them. We didn't get back to anybody else until it was all said and done. In my mind, that is not acceptable. In my mind, it's just because you have more inputs and you get busier, it's not okay to drop the level of service that you would have been doing if you weren't as busy, or if there was just 1 or 2 offers on the property. By the same token, that's the listing agent call to action. By the same token, if you're a buyer's agent, it's not okay for you to say, hey, I'm trying to submit offers on 5 properties for various buyers today, so I'm super busy and I'm not going to be able to, I'm just going to submit the offer, and I may or may not have time to read all the remarks in the MLS, look through the attached documents to find supplemental information about the property. I may not even have time to call the agent and tell them that they should be looking for an email in their, an offer in their email. All of this stuff has to press on. And if you're getting too busy, or if the pace of the market is too fast for you, again, we are compromising our value that the general public perceives real estate agents as a whole to have every time we start dropping balls or cutting corners a little bit because we get too busy. So my second plea, again, not how to do your business, but make sure that you are capable of managing the amount of business that you have coming in. If you have 5 buyers that could all be writing offers on the same weekend, like what's your plan for that? Who at your firm's going to assist you? Is there a part-time assistant? Can you hire a virtual assistant? Can you call for help for some? I mean, there have been times when we've had so many open houses in a weekend that I will call one of my cooperating agents at another brokerage that I love and that I trust and ask them if they're comfortable hosting an open house, because I know our bandwidth is not where it needs to be at times. You know, it's like things come and go in terms of your traffic, but you've got to be really well prepared to service all of these people. So as that pressure is on us, I am just a plea for our whole, you know, our association is so different. We are so cooperative. We get along well. Our competitors are generally very friendly. We work together. We're a small association. We all know each other. We have a chance, like, say some of these other markets are getting, you know, we've done buyer brokerage for a long time. Our forms have been set up very similarly to how they should have been for a long time. I know a lot of agents in our market have been doing buyer sit down, like profile interview, set up meetings where they get to know the buyer and they explain commissions. All of this stuff has been happening by a lot of people for a long time in our market. So if some of these other markets in other cities get crushed by this, like in Texas, like I have friends, they were like, we didn't even know what buyer brokerage was. We don't have a form. We have never sat down before in our life to do like an interview with a buyer at the beginning. We just start by showing them houses and then we kind of like learn them along the way. Some of these other cities are going to get crushed by not being able to adapt to what's going on. We are pretty well equipped in Charlottesville if we continue as a whole, if we continue to all work together to make each other look valuable and relevant. We are really well positioned to be just fine, despite what's going on with NAR. But it's going to take an extra level of service, an extra level of commitment, certainly during this transition. For me, I have like 6 or 7 slides that are really about streamlining things for sellers so that you're adequately prepared when the bidding war comes. I do think that like 90% of your success in a bidding war on either the buyer or the seller side is directly like related to how much expectation setting you have done and how much preparation you did before it even came to the fact that there would be a bidding war, right? So for me, we really streamline it for our sellers. When is everything happen? If we're doing coming soon, when are the photos? When is the coming soon? Can you expect to see it marketed? When does it roll from coming soon to active? What does that mean? When are the showings going to occur? Is it a small window of time? Is it going to last for weeks? Do you need to be out of your house? What's the expected level of traffic? Is there going to be 5 showings or 50 showings? All of that. Like we talk about that a week before the house goes on the market so that we're, you know, it's like, once that house is live, you're fielding calls, you're getting questions, you're set, you know, you're getting people into the house that they've accidentally locked themselves out of, or they dropped the key through the deck. Once it's live, a lot of the control is out of your hands. So for us, streamlining it so that we are really well prepared for that bidding war in advance. And we have talked about all of the repercussions and the possibilities of a bidding war before it occurs. That has helped our process. That's why our process can be so streamlined and typically very predictable, very reliable. How's the seller going to hear from you? When do they need to be available? I mean, please don't think that I've never had a seller do this before, because we have it happen and it annoys me to no end, but it's like you list the house, you have showings over a weekend, an offer comes in on Friday or Saturday, and it's like, we can't find the seller anywhere, right? Like, I don't know, they go to an international vacation and they don't have phone or email anymore on the weekend that they're supposed to be receiving offers. I am not going to say that my own sellers have never done this. It is frustrating to me, but the more we put in place that explains, like, these are the hours you're likely going to hear from us. Based on my experience, this is the window of time you can probably expect. This is the day of the week or the half of the day that you can expect that we are going to need you. Oh, and by the way, don't go on an international vacation and have no means of communication on your listing weekend, right? So things that we can talk about early to put us better positioned to have a bidding war and successfully go through it looking like professionals. We do a lot of that work on the front end. Do they have any specific requests? Here's something that really bothers me. And it's borderline unethical, but I don't want to say that we are being like that our colleagues are being unethical. But when let's say it's one of my buyer's agents, they bring you an offer on your listing. Say you have said that you're going to present offers on Monday or whatever. We are still ethically obligated to present every offer we receive to our seller in a timely fashion unless we have been given authority and express permission to do otherwise. So unless your seller has said, I do not want to look at an offer until Monday morning, you are ethically bound to present an offer in a timely manner, even if it comes 5 minutes after the house is on the market and it's not the timeline that you expected or that you planned for. And so I get really frustrated when we submit an offer on a property and people, like, you can tell from communication that that offer has not been presented yet. And I kind of wonder, like, is it going to be presented? Like, you can tell, like, oh, the seller, you know, when there's a response, like the seller's going to be responding on Monday. That's fine and good, but that offer still has to be presented, right? It is not we have no ability as listing agents to decide, like, oh, I'm just not going to present an offer because we roughly talked about this timeline and it's ahead of the timeline and I don't have time to do that this weekend. So have any specific requests from them. And I would recommend, if you are going to agree with them, that they, like, don't even look at an offer at all until Monday morning or till some set time. I would have that in writing with your seller, because you run the risk of somebody bringing an offer on Friday, you letting it sit. Then it could be an offer $100,000 over list price, all cash, no contingencies. You let it sit, they withdraw it on Saturday or Sunday. And what would happen, like, when your seller finds out about that? Do you think they're going to be a little frustrated? Frustrated is an understatement. Do you think they're going to be very, very upset that there was not direct express permission for you to kind of sit on offers as long as you want? So having communication, and then having an understanding. And please know, again, sellers change their mind at all the time. And as long as what they're doing is legal and ethical, we have to do what they ask us to do. Now, I do think it's a cop-out to be like, my seller advised me to do this, when you know that that advice is probably not in their best interest, that it's probably not going to get them the highest and best. Now, if they advise you to do something, you then share your expertise with them. Like, I will obviously do anything you ask me to do as long as it's legal and ethical. So you have my full support. That being said, I want to share some counterpoints, or based on my expertise or my experience, I want to share some thoughts with you. You know, I have had sellers just as recently as the past couple of weeks receive an offer that was a decent offer, but it was not full list price. And their first response to me was, I don't want to respond to this. Like, this doesn't seem like a serious offer. I don't want to respond at all. Let's just let it die. I think these are bottom feeders. Now, I could have said, okay, you gave me that instruction. I do what my seller says as long as it's legal and ethical. And I could have gone back and said, I'm sorry, we're not responding. Like, you know, let this thing die on the vine. But instead I said, hey, I will fully support that. If that's truly what you want me to do, after I have a chance to sort of educate you on the pros and cons, I will do whatever you ask me to do as long as it's legal and ethical. But here are some counterpoints to why that might not be the best idea. And then, as it turns out, we got ratified and the house sold and everybody was very happy. So I think it is sometimes a cop-out to just say, oh, my seller just wants best and final upfront. Okay, that may be true. You know, that could be true. But have you explained to them the pros and cons of why that might not get them the best and final price? Like, have you explained to them the idea of a bidding war, an idea of escalation clauses, the idea of going around and giving people opportunities to clean up their terms to be more and more competitive? There are pros and cons. Like, not everybody does it that way, but I could make some arguments just from what I have personally seen. I could make some arguments for where a house would have sold a lot lower when people thought that it was best and final, thought that they were presenting their best up front, or they're from out of the market and they can't even see our agent notes, so they don't know how we're going to handle it. They think what they're giving us is their best. They know they're in competition. And when we go back to them and give them an opportunity to improve their terms or tweak or tighten things up or make it more attractive to the seller, they do. And the house ends up selling under much better terms and a much higher price for the seller. So for me, I think it's a cop-out when I hear back like, oh, the seller they just had us accept this offer. They didn't really want to talk around anymore. Now, could that be true? Could you have advised them of all the pros and cons and that be their final request? Sure. And I'm for that all day long. And I will support that. And I will support what our sellers want to do. But I think some of us are using that as an excuse to cut some corners and be a little lazy and save a little bit of time of going around and around and the extra legwork that it would take to actually represent them at the highest and best level. Streamlining for sellers, you guys have seen this. We have property eval sheets in our listings. We have a list of the renovations and improvements. We have this sample informational email. We're getting so many out of area agents bringing offers that in case they can't see anything in the MLS, we have immediately, like before it goes live, we've created the informational email that has all the links, has the showing instruction, has the attached documents. We are trying to prepare ourselves so that we are not the call or the hold up in the process. Like we're not the ones slowing it down. If a bidding war starts to come to fruition, we want to make sure that every potential agent that is interested in being part of the bidding war has the information they need to make the best and strongest offer early on. When you say offer to be presented, summary, overview, or does it have to be the entire offer? Sarah, that's a good question. Let me see. I'm scared to like go, oh, look, this is so fancy. It lets me go forward and back. So for us, we do a summary offer comparison. So everybody does these differently. For me, you will see this is a Excel spreadsheet, or it's a Google sheet that we set up so that everybody on my team, or not everybody, the administrative people on my team that are not in any way related. Nobody on my team that could make an offer on the property can ever see this. So no buyer's agents can ever see this. If someone has a conflict of interest, if we have someone on our team that's interested in buying a property that we have listed for themselves, then they can't see this. But this is a Google sheet that the people on my team that are tied to this transaction with me, my transaction coordinators, my listing partner, my executive assistant, they can all see it. And so we're summarizing these offers, and you can see the top cell is a link to the offer itself. So we package all the documents in one PDF. We link to it directly, but then we pull out all the salient details and we summarize each offer side by side. I would say that that has been a game changer for us, just in terms of streamlining the process, making it faster, making it easier. Our sellers are not so overwhelmed. It's like you have 10 offers, but I can already tell you, here are the top 2 or 3. Here are the ones that have a lot of weaknesses. Do we want to focus on trying to strengthen the weaknesses? Do we want to focus on the top 2 or 3? And we have a plan in place, and we put it all in a big spreadsheet, and we highlight, like, dark green is like good, as solid as that can be. Light green is okay. You know, yellow is neutral. Orange, red is like, okay, a little rough. We probably need a little room for improvement, or we'd suggest countering. And so we put it all in a sheet, and then we do link to the full offer, because what I have found is when time is of the essence and things are moving fast, it's like, we don't want to drop 50 different page, like, well, not 50. I mean, if you say you have 5 offers and each one is a 30-page document when everything's attached, I don't want to drop 100, 200, 150 pages of PDFs on them all at one moment. Like if I just saw, like, I will tell them, say it's an offer comes in, it's going to be an hour before someone can get to it to present it. We will say, hey, here are the rough details. The sales price is $450. They are asking for some closing costs. The closing date is here. They do need financing, and they want a home inspection, and right on. You know, the 5 or 6 most important points. So that's what we do when it's like, okay, there's a little time delay between when we can sit down and package this all together. But immediately, usually within an hour of an offer coming in, we have it summarized, bulleted out, the link to the full set of PDF, because I don't want to drop all those documents on them. I don't want them to just be looking at salient details and say, oh, I like, okay, offer 3 out of 5. And then when you go to start working through the offer for them, they're like, oh, wait, what about this? How do closing costs work? Do we have to have an attorney? It's like the more that they could have been prepared for that prior to the moment we're trying to choose one of them, the better. Okay, I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss any other questions. Okay, and then agent follow-up. Again, it's like we have showing time, which I really like. I know there's pros and cons to it. Is it a little, you know, sterile? Of course it is. But when you have, you know, if you have a property that has 25 people showing it, the people that argue against, like, okay, not having showing time, or like doing it all yourself, or like hearing directly from the agent about scheduling each showing, like there is no efficiency in that. There's no way that that could be good for buyer or seller or either agent. While it's more personal, I love that part. It's just not efficient. And when it comes to like following up, to have like the follow-up email and the pings and the bings from showing time from one of these systems, making sure that you're closing the loop on every possible agent. I don't know. I mean, I have so much respect for the agents that are doing this manually. I don't know how people are doing it, but without, you know, if you have any sort of volume of listings being listed at the same time, and then any volume of offers coming in on that listing. I don't know how people are doing it without some sort of service, but I will say closing the loop on the showings is super important. It's like, because then you have a way to like mass communicate with everybody very easily without pulling each individual email, without having to pull up the lockbox. It's like you can blast and say, in the off case that like my client is really considering a bully offer, right? That does happen. Again, I can advise and advise and advise and advise, and a bully offer can come in and our whole plan can go to crap. But again, if it's legal and it's ethical, and I've explained the pros and cons, and they still want to accept an offer and kind of work outside of a timeline we have set, I am going to support them in that, but I'm going to do everything I can to close the loop with all the other agents. So it's like, if you have an offer, if you told me you were interested, but you weren't going to make the offer till Sunday or whatever, I'm going to try as best I can to reach out and make sure that no one is totally blindsided by it. Now, are they going to be a little bit blindsided because they thought they had more time? Sure. But again, at least hopefully, if we can execute it as smoothly as possible, they're not going to be blindsided by their client calling them first to say, hey, our house is gone, right? That is what makes us look all like horrible professionals. And we start to really, really just, you know, we're starting to really chip away at the perceived value of all the clients involved. So showings, again, streamlining this. When is this going to occur? How are they going to be scheduled? How long should they take? Do they need to be out of their home? How are they accessing it? When is the open house? The other thing that frustrates me that really messes up a bidding war is when you have 3 or 4 people that got to see it, they're submitting offers, and then your seller goes MIA. You can't have showings. They've scheduled like, 9 Zoom calls at home. All their client appointments are happening in their house. Every baby has a nap time. And now you've got this urgency and you've got this activity and you've got this gap because the second grouping of people or another layer of people can't even get in to see it. And so it's like, if you want this to be streamlined, you have to have expectations set up front that they understand that this is all going to happen and how it's going to happen and when it's going to happen, so that it doesn't slow your system. Now, are they still human and are they still going to do whatever they decide to do at the last minute? Yes, but at least they won't ever say, oh, we didn't realize that like we were going to have to be totally out of the house. We didn't realize there would be 15 showings today. We thought we were kind of planning like we'd have to get out of the house for an hour or 2 here and there. The more you can discuss it with them, the better you are leveraged to have all the activity come at once. Make sure that you're leaving no stone unturned. You have all the interest arriving at once, and then you can respond to it accordingly and make decisions based on that. So you will see the first page of our spreadsheet is the link and the salient details of all the offers. And then the second page of the spreadsheet is an estimated net sales sheet that breaks down all the costs of the sales. And I know everybody has their own various net sales sheet, all the costs of the sales, but we put them side by side so that you can see like offer A, this is the net, offer B, this is the net. And of course, if you aren't using a net sales sheet, go look it up. There's amazing templates online. You can copy and paste every cell. You can tweak it. Please be using a net sales sheet. But then of course, disclaim it a lot. Like you're not the closing, you're not the title company. You're not calculating prorations down to the day. Please disclaim it. But apples to apples, they should be able to get a really good comparison of what their net bottom dollar is going to be from all the various offers that are presented. Then this is where my way of doing business varies quite a bit from other people in the market. And this is not the way to do it. This is just like, if you're going to do it my way, you need to have a plan for it so that it's not perceived as unfair. It's not perceived as like a bias, like, oh, you're just favoring a couple of the agents in town that you like to hang out with and the rest of them never hear from you again. The way that I often recommend, and if there's like 5 or 10 or 15 offers on a property, I get permission from my seller to give information out about what we know as a bare minimum it would take to remain to be competitive. This saves me time. It saves the buyer's agent's time, because it's like, if we know that a property has escalated $20,000 and 375 is no longer, 375 is the list price, it's no longer going to be considered anymore because we have 5+ offers over 400. I get permission to tell any future showings, anybody that says they're about to go write an offer, I get permission from the seller to let me communicate to agents what it would take minimally to remain competitive. And so I send an email out, which people have different feelings on this. Some people feel like, well, this is really crappy to the 4 or 5 agents who are over 400 already, because it's like showing their cards. But at the end of the day, it's not my job to help the buyers of the house that I have a bidding war. It's my job to get the best and most solid terms for my seller in that situation. So while a buyer may be frustrated to see that we're telling other people how to compete with them, that is not my frustration to carry. So I will tell people, but then it's like, but then if it weeds 5 other buyers out because it's like, oh my gosh, like there's no way we can be competitive. Let's not waste my time. Let's not waste your time. Let's not get our heart set on it. Let's not lose sleep over another night. If it could save 5 buyers, agents, and buyers time of not writing the offer at all because they just are not interested in being in that price point, for me, that's a value. And that is where we can provide value back to the market. It's like, let's not let people get any further invested emotionally in a property than we have to, if we know it's not going to work out for them. And so I send an email like this or some variation of this that says, you know, if it's a really strong offer and someone's already all cash, waived all the contingencies, I will go ahead and start communicating, you know, in order to be competitive, it would at least, if it has financing, it's going to need an appraisal gap because why at a certain price point, why would a seller take a finance deal if the price keeps rising and rising and rising and it has to appraise? A finance deal that still has a full appraisal contingency is like smoke and mirrors, right? It's just going to fall apart at the appraisal. So it's like you can have these escalations that escalate you $1 million over the next best price, but if you still leave in that appraisal clause, then it's like it's a fake offer. So explaining some of that stuff is like really important because your clients don't really understand. That's why we're getting paid, right? That's why like they hired us to explain the intricacies of this to them and not let it just like shake out however it shakes out when the time comes. And so I give as much information as I can. I don't go around and say, hey, it will take exactly 4025 to beat this offer. Now, there are times when we get towards the very, very end when I ask for permission, like if it looks like we're about done and everybody's kind of escalated to where they're willing to escalate, you know, there's a point at which buyer psychology comes in and they're like, we might be willing to pay a little bit more, but we're not willing to pay a little bit more if we don't know that some other person isn't also willing to pay a little bit more. So escalation clauses kick in, whatever. But there's some point in time where I might say, hey, I think we've got about the best and final. Everybody's set, you know, I've communicated to people that they may not be number one and they have still tapped out and they've said like they could sleep well at night knowing if they lose it, they gave it their best. And we get to a final point. There may be some moment in time where I ask for permission. I say like, hey, the terms of this one offer are so good, but the price is a little lower. Mr. or Mrs. Seller, Mrs. and Mrs. Seller, Mr. and Mr. Seller, do I have your permission to give the person with these terms a select number like that you would be willing to sign today if they offered you this number because their terms put you in such a good position? That's about the only time I will ever convey like this is the number it takes to win, because I find that the fair market putting out their best and final and their comfort level will drive the price up to potentially more than you would, you know, if I just said, hey, it'll take 4025, well, what's to say that person wouldn't have bought it for 405? And again, my duty is to the seller. It's not my duty in this moment is not to like enhance affordable housing in Charlottesville. My duty is to get the best for my seller. So you may or may not like that, but that is what we sign up for when we sign a listing agreement with that seller. And then we have a coverage template because again, if you have an assistant, if you have someone covering for you, if somebody stepped in your absence, if there are multiple people, if your transaction coordinator needs to help, or you have an agent that helps you while you're showing houses on Monday, we have this list here that basically puts, you know, and there's technology that does this. You can do this through showing time. There's so many things you can do this with, but it vets out who has already said they're not interested, who's possibly interested, who's definitely interested, and where do we have offers, so that we can work through as a team, making sure that we get closure as much as we possibly can on every potentially interested party. Because the thing that would make me lose sleep at night is ratifying a deal and then finding out 2 hours later that a better offer was going to come in and we could have known that. Like there's lots of times you can't know that. Like the agent hasn't communicated with you yet. The showing wasn't even scheduled yet. they disappeared after the showing and you don't know if they like it or not, and your client needs to take a bird in hand, you know, all of those things, we can't know, but I do not want to be in a position where I have advised my client to accept something. We could have known that something better was coming and then we missed it. So we do what we can to try to get all of this going. And so I preface all of this with, if more of the listing agents had a strategy in place that utilized some of those things. I'm not telling you the right way to do it. I'm not telling you to tell competitive terms to other people. You do it however you want. But if more of the listing agents had a strategy and a system in place for them to do it, the buyer agents would not have to be doing so much painful work on the back end to kind of pull it together, right? It would really solidify things. Joey asked, do I do this via text or phone? Don't have a written escalation clause, highest offer. Joey, if there's escalation, I'm so like, I don't ever want to be accused of being unethical or shady or doing something like cutting corners. So when there are escalations involved, I typically, unless you're like totally out of the running and there's not a chance that you're going to be accepted, I ask the agent to get those in writing, which I know takes a little extra time, but I get them in writing and I get them updated. So I do ask for some extra work because I don't want to be basing decisions on who the best offer is off of something that I don't have in writing. And so if they are surfacing towards being the top couple, I always have it in writing. And then when I get to the final two offers, definitely have them in writing. And I apologize to whoever it is that it's a waste of time for. If I know there's no chance that you're going to win it, I will try not to get you involved. But there are times when you're the number two and you're escalating the number one, and we have to have that in writing. So it could be a waste of time. But you know, that's the name of the game. If you have a solution or a system, hopefully you're not wasting lots of people's time. It might be like the number two offer, but that's just, I mean, we've all been there. We've all been used as the guinea pig to enhance somebody else's offer. That's just the name of the game, unfortunately. Tips for buyer's agent. I will cut, I'm only a listing agent now. I haven't shown houses in many years. And so I'm just going to come at this from the side of the listing agent. I would say one of the number one tips is just be polite. Like recognize the repercussions of your attitude, because if you're super aggressive, if you're super rude, if you're being kind of mean, if you're, like something that I see, and I would say, again, we're a cooperative association. I see it a lot more from agents out of the market. If people are treating my team horribly, that I'm going to communicate that in some format to my client. I'm going to say, hey, we've struggled with this agent already. It's been really painful to get the offer together. They're very aggressive. They're not reading our answers. I just think be aware of the repercussions of how you're acting, because again, I'm not saying like, be super nice and try to like win people over or wine and dine the listing agent, but I am saying that your attitude is going to carry into the negotiations. And if people feel like you're going to be a hindrance to a smooth closing, I, as a listing agent, do communicate that to my sellers for better or worse. So again, however your business is done. Make sure you summarize your offer in some format and draw attention to the positives. In our company, we have a little offer summary spreadsheet, which I will, let me see. It's one of my last slides. You guys have seen this if you're a listing agent. It's just like summarizing the highest and best, because I will say, hopefully you all have seen that, it'll be in the slides, but I will say that like, if I have 10 offers coming in, the way we do it is very like, it's all going to get in that spreadsheet no matter what. So I'm not worried in our company about missing details. But if you submit 10 or 15 offers to a solo practitioner agent that has no assistant and is also out showing houses that day, dream houses to their buyer, it is very possible that they are not pulling all of these details out the way that I've just described. And it's very possible that the summary of this information is not going to be as clear. And I have seen many times, too many times to count, an agent totally miss that there was an escalation clause, totally miss that there was a home sale contingency, totally miss that there was a free lease back to the seller, 6 months free lease back. Like, you think that would have been a valuable piece of information to have included into the numbers as you were, weighing offers against each other. So the listing agents are struggling, and there's no excuse for that. Like, if you're the listing agent that's struggling, have a better plan. But as a buyer agent, I think you have to sort of play to the lowest common denominator, assume that there's a struggle, and make sure that the things that are marketable about your client get conveyed. And the other thing I will say is don't rely on just sending an email with an offer and not texting or calling. Like, you have to verify that that listing agent actually got the offer, because as thorough as I am, and I have people checking, I have other people in my inbox, we check our spam filters multiple times a week. Like, I am going to fully admit, I have had an offer emailed to me that has ended up in spam. And if that agent had not told me to look for it, I would have completely missed it. And I would not, that could have been the winning offer and we could have ratified on something else. And there's no getting around that. So you've got to make sure that an agent knows that the offer is there and coming. And then something that really drives me insane is there are so many answers that are already in the MLS. So if you have someone that's serious enough to write an offer at that point in time, I really do feel on the buyer side, it is your obligation. Again, we're providing value to our clients. Our value is very, very controversial at this moment in time. It's the buyer's agent's job to read all of that information. And as a listing agent, I will tell you, this is me being that, arrogant listing agent that we are often accused of being. There is nothing that drives me more insane than our whole process getting slowed down. We have 10 or 15 offers. We're trying to respond to everyone. We're trying to help communicate things to put the buyers in the best position. We're trying to help break as few hearts as possible and deliver bad news really gently. And when my day gets completely sidetracked by a couple of buyers agents emailing, calling, text messaging me over and over and over again with information that is right in the MLS, it drives me insane. And I will say, like, if you want your client to be in the best position and you want to optimize urgency, you want to streamline your process to be as fast as possible and make sure you don't get overlooked, read the MLS, because a lot of the stuff that you're waiting on is readily available to you, and it slows the process down. And an agent who's really trying really hard to deliver information fairly and quickly, they're sucking at their job because they're trying to, again, break fewer hearts and make us look good as a profession. But the hours that they were supposed to dedicate that can get dedicated instead to just telling people information that's already readily available if they had just read the marketing materials about the property. It is my biggest frustration. And when you get frustrated with listing agents for acting arrogant or being a little short with you answering a question, just know that perspective. Now, some are just arrogant and short with you and rude. I'm not making excuses for that, but I am just saying that is a perspective that I have coming to it, that I share from a place of, like, I hope there's some, hopefully you can find empathy and understanding for that. How to be more competitive. I would say get in early, ask the right questions, but I have it's like covered by my chat, not redundant questions. Again, it doesn't serve you to call the listing agent and ask, like, what's the HOA fee? When does the seller want to vacate the property if that's already in the remarks? Where's the survey? Like, where are the lot lines if that's already in the documents? Ask the right questions, which might be, hey, can you tell us if we're in competition? Hey, is there anything else you can think of that would sweeten the deal? Hey, is there something that we could do that would make this really stand out? Do they need a free lease back? Is there anything, are they open to having an inspection if it were done really quickly and we could get the inspection done before the HOA document timeline would expire? Ask the right questions to put yourself in the best position. Do your homework and set the expectations with buyers. And then if you're going to do a bully offer, I just say make it worthwhile. I will tell you, from the listing agent side of things, bully offers seem to fail more often than they succeed. And it's because they're not worthwhile and it just pisses everyone off. So it's like, I understand if you're being guided to do a bully offer, but like, make it worthwhile. Like, if there's 25 showings lined up and you're just going to submit a full price offer that has some random contingencies, just like all the other offers would be, you're throwing the listing agent plan off, you're throwing the seller's plan off, you're making the list. This is where, like, we get a bad rap for, like, not looking professional. You're making the listing agent have to go back on their word to all of these people in town that, oh, we thought we were going to wait till Monday, but now maybe we're not. for me, I will advise my clients, if it is not really compelling, and we have scheduled activity coming, I would not accept it. I would not accept it and I would not consider it. And I will say it puts a bad taste in the seller's mouth. It just starts things off really negative if it's not worthwhile. If you're just rushing them for the sake of rushing them, I think it just makes things really uncomfortable going through the rest of the transaction. Now, do know that I suggest a certain timeline for my clients, and my clients sometimes decide that they will accept a bully offer and they will change their entire plan around. So again, if it's ethical and it's legal and I've advised them of the pros and cons and they still wish to do it, they still get to do it. But please advise your client that a bully offer is likely going to hinder them more than help them, unless the property is not getting very much activity anyway, in which case you might have wanted to wait a couple of days and see how it went. You might have been able to negotiate below list price. You just never know. And then honest conversations about how to make it competitive. So this is a chart that I would recommend everybody creating for themselves. This is a chart that we have where I have studied over the past couple of years of data from our own firm. So this is, I didn't leave my percentages here because they would be inaccurate for the way other people do business. But we have studied this and we have data that tells us the averages. When I get just one offer on a property, the average list price to sales price. When I get 2 to 3 offers, how much above the list price does it typically sell? When I get 4 to 5 offers, what's the percentage above? If it's 10 plus offers, what's the percentage above? So you would have to calculate these for your own offers or for your own listings and get your own data, or maybe your company could come together. Like, this is data that I provide to my entire company. So I say 10 plus offers, let's say that means it's going to sell for 50% more than list price. We know that's not a real number, but that's the sample number. I can now tell all the buyers agents in my firm, hey, here's the pattern we're seeing. If there's over 10 offers on the property, it's probably going to sell for 50% more than the list price. So if it's listed at 400, you're probably looking at having to offer 600 to be competitive. That is data that my buyers agents can give to their buyers and say, hey, there's 10 plus offers in already. I think, coming in 5,000 below list price with a home sale contingency is not a good use of our time and energy and information. So it's like just trying to do your best. A bully offer, Bevan, is when there's supposed to be a posted, thank you, Joey, for explaining. When there's a posted time that you're going to review the offer, it's like, we're going to review offers on Monday. We tell everybody, Monday, you don't need to race. And then an offer comes in on Friday and they're like, we need to have your response in 3 hours or by Saturday morning. And then you have to backpedal and like eat your words and tell everybody the update, whatever. So that's a bully offer. It's not always described as a bully offer, but it is perceived by the seller oftentimes to be a bully offer because it changes their entire game plan that they may have been planning for 6 months to roll out in a certain way. But this is one of those, just knowing what kind of offer you're going to need to make to be competitive based on how much activity there is, I think is really, really helpful. And then sorry, go ahead, Brittany. Am I wrapping?
Yeah, I wanted to wrap up so we can have some times for Q&As.
That's actually perfect because this is I have one more slide, but it's really tied to Q&A. So yes, let me take off my slide share and then what can I help you guys with? I know we got.
Go ahead and unmute if you have a question or in the chat, either way, but this is the time to ask some questions.
Anybody?
Anyone?
The one last thing I will talk about is just like delivering the news then, like there are a lot of people, like when there's bidding wars, a lot of people lose, a lot of people get feelings hurt, and trying to be the listing agent that tells the agent before their client finds out, I think is really, really important. I wish like we could all just go back and sign a pact together that like, again, we're not telling you how to do your business, but could we as an association just do business that way? Like it's not foolproof. Like agents are out showing houses. You can't always get them. You can't always deliver the news first, but can we make an effort to make sure that the agent is the one that can communicate that to their client? And then talking to your own buyer about, hey, there's a lot of people losing in this market, inventory short. This is just the reality. Let's have a game plan in place for the next time around. Let's talk about contingencies that could be waived. Let's talk about doing maybe a walk and talk home inspection instead of asking for a home inspection later. Let's talk about escalation clauses. There are private finance, you could do private financing. There's ways that you wouldn't need, you could cover an appraisal gap, for example. Like there's ways that you could write in things the next time around. I feel like the second offer that most buyers write is a more likely winning offer because most buyers sort of have to experience what it's like the first time around. But I would just make a plea to the listing agents out there to think about, like, would it benefit my seller if I shared some more details to these buyers agents? And like, can we make sure that we really had their very best and final, and that this was the best that we could have done for our client? Because it's really gross to me when you're hired to get the highest and best for a client, and there's a buyer's agent that at the end of it feels like if they had just had a little more information, their client would have gone higher, and they didn't have the opportunity because while it may have been fast and effective and efficient, and you may be celebrating your super low days on market and patting yourself on the back, you didn't do what you were contracted to do for that seller, and that buyer's agent's left looking really bad too. And as a whole, I think it just hinders the perception of our profession. What do you think about not having a deadline and then adding one once you realize demand is higher than you expect? Joey, I think as long as you are fair and open about, like, that's my only intention, is just be fair. Like, if your client changes course along the way, you can't do anything about that, but you can be fair in how you share that with other people. I have sometimes done that. I mostly do a deadline. Just so I really feel like having a few days on market is having the fair market have the time and ability to compete for a property is typically the best way to get them to the highest price. So I typically do have a deadline just so that people know that we're probably not going to consider much on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. But again, everybody does their business totally different, and we're getting away, like in 6 months or a year, I may not be doing that anymore just based on how the market's going. But you know, everybody could do that differently. And certainly I would love for people to have the rolling deadlines on different days. Like we started the Thursday to Monday thing like 2 years ago, and then it sort of became the market norm. But like, there's nothing that says it couldn't be, you know, Friday to Wednesday or Wednesday to Sunday. I mean, it could be different for every firm or every various agent. We could all have different times, but I like to have a deadline because it sort of communicates we're not going to just accept the very first thing that comes in the door, and like just for the sake of having a ratified contract, you know, and having the best, you know, days on market. I purposely, if my days on market average goes below 4, I don't think I'm doing a service for my clients. That's just my opinion. Everybody has totally different opinions, and that's why we all get hired by the, you know, the person that's right for us. But any other questions or?
Can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Erin. Welcome.
Yeah.
Hi. I appreciate this, and it's actually a comment and an encouragement, but definitely, like, I feel like this balanced approach, like you can work really hard for your sellers and still be very fair to agents. And I said in the chat, like, knowing like if you're not at 750, don't even write. I mean, that is so respectful to us. And I feel like it encourages this camaraderie that you're talking about. And I've just so appreciated it because we're all trying to hang out with our kids and do all the things over the weekend. So I would say I appreciate that. I also appreciate the deadline piece because I don't want to leave my kids' orchestra concert to go out and show you know, like I want to be a human as a buyer's agent too, as well as adding. I remember when you all shifted to including weekdays on the market as well. And I think for all of us, I mean, not all of our clients can get here on the weekend, but I just think it respects each other so much to be able to allow us a little bit more 9-to-5 work. So, you know, I think I just wanted to say I really appreciate those details.
Well,
for those of us,
and I mean, that's such a good, like, that was me from my listing agent, very limited view, thinking like, oh, just do it over a weekend. That's easy. You know, that's not, it's just a time when the sellers can be out. It's easier for them to plan. And I had this narrow view of like, okay, that should be fine, until someone on the car webpage was like, hey, it'd be really cool if like we could do showings not on the weekend. I was like, that really makes sense. And so we just changed it. But it's like, if those conversations don't happen, we're in our just little narrow view, kind of doing what makes the most sense for us. I just feel like stuff like this is so helpful. And then for me, my like little selfish request is I just wish more people would do it for my buyers agents, right? Like we're trying to help you not look bad. I wish other firms would take the approach of allowing my buyer's agents not to look bad too, and not to have their clients finding the information out by way of the MLS and what have you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. I know there's tons more questions, but I know we have to wrap up, sadly.
Yeah, I can stay for a minute or two after and answer the questions.
Yeah, that's perfect. But before we end this, Lauren, would you want to share how much we've raised for Yellow Door and announce the winner? You're muted, Lauren.
I knew that. Thank you. So we raised $250 for Yellow Door. We reached our goal in 20 minutes, which is amazing. So I am going to click the wheel and find out.
Oh, it's so suspenseful, this wheel.
I'm still here and I learned a lot, and I am so appreciative to you guys for continuing to support us.
Absolutely.
Yes, and thank you. Sasha actually picked the Yellow Door Foundation for her Latte and Learn. So we're
and if you haven't gone to one of the Yellow Door events, or if you don't understand what it is really, well, I mean, it's tied into housing and shelter in times of need. It's a great cause for real estate agents to be aware of. So I know Joanne would be very happy to schedule a call with you and tell you more about it.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Anytime anyone wants to come visit, the invitation's always open. And May 1st, we're having a luncheon at Farmington, which is one of our 2 annual fundraisers. And all the information is on our website. But it's a good time to meet some of our families and hear testimonials and hear from the doctors that we serve in transplant and cancer. And I just I'm very, very grateful. And Sasha, listening to that, man, I wouldn't want to mess with you. You are formidable.
Well, thank you. I don't know if that's
really
a good thing, but hey, I'm sure it pays off sometimes. Right?
That is a very positive comment, but that was very informative for me to listen to also. So thank you all for that, and including me.
Yes, awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to spin the wheel. And Brittany.
Well, I will donate back to Yellow Door. So whatever gift that was, we can donate back to them. So thank you everyone for donating. Of course, absolutely. Thank you everyone for donating. And before we leave, Lauren would like to show you some upcoming classes and events that CAR and YPN are hosting.
Yes. So some upcoming fun events that we have at CAR is, of course, the Pat Jensen Leadership Academy. The application opened on March 1st and closes March 31st. This is a great way for agents to get more involved in CAR and really get some good leadership experience. We also on Monday have an update on proposed NAR settlements with attorney Michael Lafayette. For those who attended our buyer, broker, and listing agreement event, this was the attorney that spoke on that, and he's just going to do a little update on the NAR proposed settlement. So you won't want to miss that. There's also some light snacks. So if you're food motivated, please attend. It is also available on Zoom. We do have our Sweet 16 coming up for CAR. So if you need all 16 hours of your continuing education, you can get those on April 23rd and April 29th. Register on the CAR Education and Events calendar. We also have some upcoming GRIs. We have At Home with Diversity with Reggie Copeland. If you are looking to be on the board of directors next year, this is a class that you are required to take in order to be on the board of directors. So make sure you take it. We also have our general membership meeting coming up on May 16th. Three of YPN's title sponsors are supporting sponsors for this event. So make sure to show them some love. And then we have another hybrid GRI with Reggie Copeland working with buyers, and so many more GRI classes. And of course, we also have YPN's Waterpalooza, formerly known as Wet and Wild. It is to raise money for RPAC. That is on May 21st at Dardentown Park from 3 to 5 p.m. So really make sure you show up. We're gonna have some really fun water events and it's gonna be great.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I didn't know if Sasha wanted to answer, people wanted to stay on, answer some more questions.
Yeah, I could stay for a minute or two. I tried to catch up in the sidebar, but I'll be here for a minute.
Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for coming. And I hope you all have a great day.
Bye guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Sasha.
You're
Sorry I asked so
welcome.
many
Any other
questions, Sasha.
Yeah, what was that?
Oh, I was just saying, sorry I asked so many questions. I just appreciate your input.
No, I love it. I mean, it's like the more we talk about this openly, the more we see that like we're all struggling with sort of the same things. There's no
Right.
right way to do it, but it gives us all perspective to like be thoughtful of the other, side. So thank you guys for coming. Now I just all these bidding wars going forward are just gonna be so easy and fun, right? Any other questions? Otherwise, I'll let everybody go and have a great weekend.
Just quick, do you think it's valuable to give them an alternative property if they lose the bidding war?
It's so funny. I mean, sure, that's valuable, but I don't feel like that, it's like, I don't know that that really heals the wound. I think my buyer's agents struggle with this. I see them coming in and they are heartbroken for their clients. I do seem to find, and I know this is cliche, I do seem to find that when people lose one and end up getting a different one later, they're often just as excited. I know it's cliche, but I really believe it to be true. They often end up like feeling like the one they land on is the right one for them. So I don't try to like minimize their feelings about it. I don't try to like patch over the situation. It's just like, this is the reality of the market. And on our team, we talk to our buyer's agents a lot about having really candid conversations with, this isn't the right market for everyone. If you're super emotional about it, if you're really on the fringe of your affordability and you're searching in a price range and that every property is getting bid up by $20,000 or $40,000, then it might be a sideline time for a couple of months. And I think the more candid and honest you are with your client, the more likely you are to be in that long-term relationship and work with them down the road. But for us, we are having real conversations with like, if you're losing over and over and over again, and this is too much for you, and it's just so frustrating and it's upsetting, maybe we sideline for a couple of months and wait till a slower time of the year, which typically comes like later in the fall and in the winter. And of course, so we just try to be really honest. It's great if there's a substitute property, but in this market, if I had a substitute property, we wouldn't have as many bidding wars to begin with, right? I think that's really the problem, unfortunately.
Can I ask one quick question? I had said, do you recommend that buyer clients add an escalation clause when they are the first offer? Like if you're on the listing side, do you feel like
it's so funny. It's so hard. Like if you think about it, an escalation clause doesn't do any damage to you if no other offers come in. A good agent should be out trying to scrape for every possible offer, no matter what. So I would hate to think that because you added an escalation clause, that agent's going to finally go do the work and like find other offers. Right. They should be finding those offers anyway. So we've gone back and forth on this, but sometimes I think it could help because if there are agents that aren't managing the process well, you may never hear from them again. You may think you're the only offer and you don't add an escalation and then a better offer comes in. I mean, this has happened to us many times this year. A better offer comes in, our agent isn't even informed that they're in competition and they're just like, oh, we just signed this other offer because it was significantly stronger. And we're like, oh, cool. Well, we didn't know we were competing. So that would have been really valuable information to have. So I think you have to just it depends on the agent you're working with. It depends on your track record with them. It depends on, I would say if they're in area versus out of area, I feel like the more out of area, they just do business very differently at a very fast pace and they don't know each other generally in these bigger markets. And so I don't know, to be safe, you might want to do it because again, it doesn't do any harm if another offer isn't presented. It can only help. So
unless they use it to drive up other offers, maybe. But
well, you're going to be a guinea pig. Like if a bidding war occurs, it's like if a bidding war occurs, yes, you're going to be used to drive up other offers. I mean, there's no getting around that. But if your clients really want to win, it's kind of like, well, that was the nature of what was going to happen anyway, unfortunately.
And I'd like to give a caveat as a selling listing agent primarily. And I find do not assume because it is a farm property or a country property or historic, that there are not going to be other offers coming in because we're seeing not as many multiple offers in the other, but just about every property, we're seeing multiple offers. So, and I
Truly,
find,
I mean, I would just
often-
say, don't assume it on anything right
Yep.
now. It's like, assume that if a listing agent isn't going to manage it super smoothly, you know, your first shot is maybe your only shot, and you may not ever know if you were in competition or not until you lose
Yeah.
to someone else. And that's, again, it's like, that's the messaging that I wish the whole association would hear, and we could like all get on the same page
Mhm.
with, like, at the very least, let's make a commitment to communicate to people to let them know they were in competition before we ratified another offer. But, you know, we can't tell people how to do their business, obviously. So.
oh yeah, but I do find people tend to sometimes assume that and think, oh, I'm just going to go in low, even when you tell them you already have
Right.
offers on
Right.
the table. And I find that sometimes people don't listen, but it is very interesting in some of the other markets. And you get up north of here and it's a little more cutthroat.
For sure. It really is. I'm very grateful for our market every day. So,
Yeah.
Any other questions? I think I got through the little side chat. Did I cover
There's
everything?
one Sarah wrote, does saying seller reserves the right to accept an offer at their discretion encourage bully offers?
You know, I don't know. We don't put that in a lot because I do feel like it just makes even more clear. It's like, well, why put that in? You can always accept an offer at any moment in time. I would rather not speak to it if we don't have a plan in place. I don't know, but yeah, I'm sure I frustrate people too, because we say it's going to be Monday and then it's not always Monday. I would say 95% of the time it's Monday, but occasionally, you know, like we just ratified one. And I think I can share the details of this because I was given permission to share it with all the agents involved. We just ratified one on a condo and it was a great offer. The price was excellent. But it was all cash. And everybody else that was sort of talking about it had some sort of financing involved, or like there were lots of people that were going to do some sort of financing. And it's an area where sometimes the financing works, sometimes it doesn't. And that seller was just like, you know what? I am going to take a bird in hand. I am not going to press my luck. We're sort of seeing what, you know, and I asked around, like, what's your situation? Like, could your person go all cash, or, you know, what's their offer going to look like if they're interested? So I asked the people that I knew were really interested, and he was just like, you know what? I just feel like today is a day when I just want to accept this offer and not push my luck. And we changed everything about the plan. So I'm just going to say, like, you can always accept an offer at any moment in time. I try very hard to advise my client that if we're going to suggest a deadline, that we do everything we can to stick to that deadline, you know. But if you're not comfortable having a very, very like rigid conversation about that, then I would say don't have a deadline at all. And just, you can always tell people, hey, even though we got your offer today, we're going to wait a few more days to see what else is out there. I feel like everybody does their business a little differently, and it just really kind of depends on how you explain it to your folks. Did I miss anything else? I was thinking I was caught up to speed in the sidebar. I think that's it.
Thanks, Sasha.
Thank you guys. Have a great weekend. I will see you at the GMM or sometime one of these days soon. See you later.